Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're having a great start to your day. Now, today's show is about first-time buyers, right? Or the first time you need to buy something, whether that's a ring, a car, or a house, which is what we're going to start with, because there's so many things that go into play, so many decisions that you have to make, and it's not always easy, and the internet will not always be your friend. So we've got some experts on the show today lined up, starting with Moses Muriithi, who is a property developer and the chairman and CEO at Tribeca Business Solution. Welcome, Moses.
Thank you, Sharon.
He's quite a fiery character. I don't know if his character will come out on screen right now. Feel free to really be yourself here. But you have been in the business for 30 years.
Yes, we have.
So if ever there was someone to ask these questions, I think we've got the right person.
I've made enough mistakes, I guess, yes.
And lessons have been learned.
Absolutely.
So we're at Skyview Gardens, which is actually one of your properties. We're actually in one of the apartments right now.
Yes.
Do you get a lot of people coming who are first-time buyers coming into some of your properties? And if so, what are some of the first main two, three questions that you hear?
The first thing I do, Sharon, is I ask the potential buyer, are you sure you want to buy? Because you'd be surprised, just like your first time ring, are you sure you're getting married? The first time car, have you got a driving license? So the first thing we always ask them is, are you sure you're ready to buy? Because it's a long-term commitment. Okay. I don't care whether somebody's coming to pay with cash. Like we had a young man who came the other day and said, look, I've got 65 million shillings and I want the penthouse. When I say young man, he's less than 30 years old. He's got a girlfriend and she loved it. And he's made a little money somewhere. That's legit because it's in the bank. Yeah. And the first question again is, are you sure you want? Because our penthouses are 65 million. Right. And he's ready to put down his 10%. Congratulations to him. Yeah. The first conversation is, what's the purpose? If it's an investment, does it make sense for the rentals that you're hoping to get in this place? And against how much you're going to put down? Okay. Because if you're going to put down only 20%, sometimes an average in Kenya, your return doesn't really justify the amount of money you're going to put down unless you also balance it off with the capital gains you're going to get. Okay. But if you're going to put down, I say in Kenya, about 60% down and the balance financed at about the 13 to 14% rate at the moment, you should be in a rental space that would pay itself back. Okay. So do you need to rent or do you need to buy? Because some people here have bought and we've got people who are ready to rent out their houses. Okay. So first decision, rent or buy. Second decision, cash or mortgage.
Would you ever advise someone to pay cash?
If you can, pay cash.
If you can pay cash?
Every time. I would even tell you, and my banks will kill me for this, but they need to hear that. Yeah. If you don't have all the cash, it is better to downsize and step up later. Okay. My father, God bless his soul, told his then mother-in-law, my grandmom, that, oh, by the time I go into property, it seems like everything will be bought. And my grandmom, all the way back in the 60s, told my father, listen, even in England, which has been a kingdom for however many years, they're still building new buildings today. So when the time comes and you're able, you will buy what you need to get. Yeah. My father ended up owning one of the buildings in the CBD with a partner of his. That was another 20 years after that conversation. Yeah. But when he was able to buy because buy or rent, mortgage or cash. He didn't have the cash then. Yeah. So he bought stuff in Eastleigh and he came round from Eastleigh, he came round through what is some people now call New Runda. He started the New Runda side. Yeah. Again, he bought the land and then developed the houses later because that's what he could afford then. Okay. And eventually, he could afford a building in town.
Would you ever advise someone to get a mortgage?
That's the third question.
Okay.
If it's not cash, then what? Now, somebody then has to make a choice. When I got married to my wife, I told her she will have a house that is debt-free after 10 years. So we are also the developers of Oyster Village. There are apartments and maisonettes in Eastlands, in Donholm. And I got a 2-bedroom flat and I said, I've kept my promise. She said, yes, but the kids are in Kianda. We'll never be able to do the commute. I said, this is the house that has no debt. Where do you want to live? So the conversation is, where do you want to live? Can you afford to rent there or can you afford to buy? If you can afford to buy, should you buy it cash or mortgage? If it's mortgage, how much of a mortgage can you afford? Now, this is the next very important question. And bankers, this is a conversation your RMs don't always tell people. Okay. How much can you afford if you're downsized in 5 years? Now, some good news. In Kenya, we hate debts.
time frame? In 5 years?
In 5 years.
Okay.
That's the number you should use. So say you've got a very good job. You say, fine, you can get insurance against loss of income.
Yeah.
You can get, you will grow. But let's assume in 60 months, everything goes haywire.
Yeah.
You get your insurance against that. And that's the number you should work against. Some good news. Kenyans, we hate mortgages. We hate debt. We've got less than 25,000 mortgages in Kenya. About 200 billion worth of mortgages. And yet, we do nearly 5 times more number of houses because guys build 1 cement bag at a time.
Okay.
What does that mean? It means Kenyans on average pay their mortgages in 7.5 years, even when the banks give them 15 years.
Oh.
We work very hard to get out of that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's incredible. So a mortgage isn't all bad. You just have to think of
how to get
a
out.
contingency plan.
Absolutely. What's your plan B?
Right.
Are you going to have it with your wife, girlfriend, spouse, partner, whatever?
Yeah.
Are you going to finance it with your business so that every Kenyan has a side hustle?
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, that's true.
your employer doesn't know where else you go after hours, but who's to say you're not in a chama that owns a hairdresser or that owns a car yard or that owns an aeroplane? There's a chama of women, God bless them, who lease an aircraft.
Okay.
Yes, it does mirror across the borders. And by the way, and there's always a side hustle.
That's true.
So have you got enough money from your side hustle that if you chose to give it all up and follow your dreams, the investment, you don't lose all the money you've already put into it?
Okay.
That's the 4th decision.
Right.
But last but by no means least is you need to be able to be prepared for the unlikely event that everything goes belly up and you might have to leave that premises and rent it out and downsize. The trick is be able to afford to keep the unit so that it's paying for itself and you don't lose all the equity you've already got from the property appreciation until when you want to sell. Why is that? Because everybody can smell fear. If you have to sell out of desperation, whether or not the country is on an upswing or a downturn, the sharks will always get you and they'll always offer you a price that you can't afford to give away. So I always tell guys, make sure you've got a plan B that allows you to survive without losing or selling under pressure. That for me are the 5 takeaways.
All right. So say for instance I came, I have the cash and I've figured out if I need a mortgage and all these questions have been answered. How long does the process take between deciding that this is what I want to get and actually owning or getting the keys and having it as your own?
If you're dealing with funding from a bank, on average, the tedious process is not the bank side. It's on the land ministry side. Okay. With all the corruption scandals we have in Kenya, with all the challenges we have in confirming that a project is what it says it is, and with all the corrupt people we have in the system, and by corrupt I mean everybody, including the guy who's supposed to be registering your documents. Corruption is not just he steals from you, he could steal your time. That's corruption. If he's not going to work, and instead of going to work, he's going to his side hustle, your documents don't get lodged when they should. So instead of being lodged this week Monday, they're lodged next week Monday, and you've already paid the deposit to the bank. You've paid your commitment fee, 2.5%. You've paid your 6 months interest in advance. You've paid your legal fees because you have to have finished all that. You've gone and made sure you've gone to the Huduma Center and you've got your tax compliance certificate. You've done all that. And then this guy wastes another couple of months. No. You should have had your house 2 months ago. Yeah. So the process can take 90 days and the process can take 6 months. All it takes is diligence.
That's painful. Would you say it's important to involve an agent, to have someone who understands this industry, the ups and downs, when you're looking to buy a house, or can someone just go at it by themselves?
Again, my fellow agents are going to kill me. But the truth of the matter is you don't need an agent. Okay. You don't. The agent's value these days has been superseded by the ease with which you can interact with government online. And soon you may not even need a lawyer. What? Because soon you may not need a lawyer because the bank will have your documents. The bank will know who you are because they know who you are online, because they can verify who you are. You're going to be able to verify the ownership of the document yourself online. And so the bank is only making sure you've got the money and that it's clean money. But at the moment, you need the agent to give you a global view of options, because much as you think you can, it's tedious to try and find every sky view there is in Nairobi. How many projects do you know who have got 25% of their 1 acre as green field space. It's very few. This is 400 million per acre area. So 25% as green means you've got 100 million of green space. Now, but we're saying, oh, we've got this green space. How do you know that? Right. But there's an agent who's come here and verified that Skyview really does have. Yeah. Then Skyview says we are the only ones. How do you know we are the only ones? Right. The agent will tell you, no, Skyview's competitor, and I can tell you our competitors, I don't fear competition. Yeah. We've got a very nice project on Waiyaki Way that's just around the corner, also financed by KCB. Okay, it doesn't have as much green, thank God, but they've got beautiful interior spaces. Slightly more expensive than ours in terms of market niche, so we're not eating into each other's space. But you see, you've got an agent who's checked both for you. Okay. The same way you go to, is it called Checky.com for a car or something, and you see all the options, but those are only pictures. The car might sound better, the car might drive better, but you'd have to drive all those cars before you find out. Now, an agent would have bothered to do that for you. That's what the value of an agent is. But I think the most important thing right now is a lawyer, a good lawyer to make sure everything is what it's supposed to be in terms of ownership, in terms of where the documents are supposed to be, and in terms of making sure you get the best deal from the person selling, because as a developer, I could say 20% deposit, and if you don't pay in 90 days, you're going to pay a penalty. Your lawyer would say, hey, wait a minute. You know lands, Moses, you're a developer, you know lands can take 6 months. So the clause should say, and balance within 15 days, 14 days of the lodged documents at lands. Now that little clause, you and I might not,
everything.
but it makes a difference.
Yeah, we're out of time, but I have to ask one more question. Are there any hidden costs that someone should know of? If this apartment goes for 28 million. So is it just that 28 million that goes into the house, or are there other costs that first-time buyers should be aware of?
As a first-time buyer, you will realize that a good development always has a service charge. Now, the higher the market, we've got heated pools, we've got jacuzzis here, we've got sauna steam, so it's $200 a month. So if you don't have 20,000 shillings to run your home, you're going to fall into problems. If you go to Eastlands for the projects we're doing in Donholm, the service charge is 5,000 bob a month. But there's legal fees. The lawyer will charge you 1.5% of the price that you are buying the house. Stamp duty, the government expects for all that work they've done to make it easy for you to find out who owns and everything, they need their 4%. Thankfully, there's now a HOSP, it's called, there's a new bill that's going through that will be allowing first-time buyers to get the first house without paying stamp duty. That's a very big consideration.
Their first house?
First house. First house.
4% is like 800,000 shillings or so.
4% when you're buying a 30 million shilling house is 1.2 million shillings.
1.2. So that's not.
It's not a little change. So if you're doing an affordable home, which the government says should be in the region of about 1.5 million shillings, again, 1.5 million shillings, 4% is 60,000 shillings. 60,000 shillings when your service charge is 5,000 bob. That is a year worth of service charge the government is giving you back. So when you move into the house, the government is telling you, chill, for next year, we're taking care of you. That's a big deal. It sounds like it's chump change, but it's significant.
It's not,
now, in 1996, the government then said, look, 4,000 bob a month, put it into a registered savings scheme, and you'll be allowed to take that tax-free. They've now increased it to 8,000 shillings a month. That's 96,000 shillings a year. So they're helping you, if you're 20 years old, by the time you're 25, to have saved nearly 500,000 shillings as deposit towards your first house. Those little things make a difference.
Thank you so much, Moses. Thank you. You've broken it down amazingly. And I think any other question that you could have had, please just hit us up on Living With Us and we might just do a follow-up, because I think this topic could have taken 3-4 shows and really getting into it. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right. Now we get to find out what it takes to buy a ring. What do you need to consider? So we've got to take a break, but we'll be right back.